Hi everyone, welcome to my channel HOA Karen Calls 911. Before we start the video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Your one subscription won't cost you anything, but it will be a means of blessing for me. Thank you. HOA destroyed my garden for being too colorful. They didn't know I'm an art collector. It's often said that a garden is a reflection of the soul, a space where you can cultivate not just flowers, but dreams. For as long as I can remember, I've been captivated by the beauty of nature and the idea of creating something lasting, something meaningful, with my own hands. When I moved into my suburban home several years ago, I saw a blank canvas, a chance to create something uniquely mine. My home was already filled with priceless art, sculptures, paintings, rare artifacts that I had carefully curated over the years as an art collector. But there was still one area I could truly make my mark on: my backyard. As an art lover, I've always seen beauty in bold colors, contrasts, and the unexpected. My garden, which I lovingly built over the years, was a living, breathing manifestation of that philosophy. Each flower was carefully chosen, with vibrant reds, yellows, purples, and oranges, weaving together in a colorful mosaic that felt as if nature itself had created a masterpiece. I placed whimsical statues, water features, and stepping stones, each piece adding to the overall harmony of the garden. What started as a simple passion project quickly became the talk of the neighborhood. Neighbors would often stop by, take photos, and leave with a sense of peace and awe. The garden wasn't just a collection of plants, it was my creative expression. It was a place where I could escape the daily grind, an oasis where I felt at home in the presence of beauty. But one day, I opened my door to a visit from the Homeowners Association, HOA. I had no idea this would be the beginning of a legal battle that would not only challenge my artistic freedom, but would also force me to take a stand against something that many would never expect: a fight to protect my right to create. It was a peaceful afternoon when I first saw the HOA representatives at my front door. There was no forewarning, no heads up. Two individuals, a man named Greg and a woman named Carla, were standing at my doorstep with serious expressions and clipboards in hand. They introduced themselves as part of the local HOA board and quickly got to the point. "Mr. Thompson, we've had several complaints about your garden," Carla said, glancing down at her clipboard. "It seems that your garden, specifically the vibrant colors, is causing some concerns among your neighbors. We believe it's disrupting the uniform aesthetic of the neighborhood, and we need you to make some changes." I was taken aback. My garden? Disrupting the neighborhood? I had spent so much time and energy making sure it fit into the community, and yet here I was being told that something I had created with love was now an issue. They went on to explain that the HOA had rules about landscaping, and my colorful, free-flowing design didn't meet their criteria for acceptable gardens. The colors were too loud, the flowers were too varied, and the overall layout was too chaotic. Carla handed me a notice, explaining that I would be fined for violating the HOA's rules if I didn't remove certain plants or modify the garden's color scheme. The fine was steep, over $500 for every week the changes weren't made. I asked them why my garden couldn't remain as it was, but they only reiterated that it didn't match the HOA's standards. It felt like a personal attack. I was told that I had to either tone down the color palette or face the consequences. They left, but not before reminding me of the possibility of further fines if I didn't comply with their demands. After the HOA left, I stood there in disbelief. How could a simple garden, one that was designed to bring joy and beauty to my life and the community, be seen as such a problem? What struck me the most was the lack of understanding of what I was trying to achieve. To them, it was just too colorful and disruptive, but to me, it was a work of art. Over the next few days, I mulled over my options. I knew I couldn't just let them destroy something I had poured my heart and soul into. My first instinct was to ignore their demands, but the constant fear of mounting fines made that a difficult option. So, I decided to take action. I contacted a lawyer, someone who had experience dealing with cases of property rights and HOA disputes. The more we spoke, the more I realized that the HOA's actions might not be as legal as they claimed. The issue wasn't just about my garden, it was about freedom of expression and individual rights. As an art collector, I understood the importance of protecting one's creative expression, and I wasn't about to let anyone tell me how to decorate my own property. With my lawyer's help, I began to gather evidence. We documented the HOA's rules, compared them to local zoning laws, and started to identify possible legal precedents that could work in my favor. My lawyer also advised me to take photographs of my garden and any communication from the HOA, as this could become essential if the situation escalated. I also reached out to my neighbors, asking for their support. Many of them had expressed admiration for my garden, and some even told me that they found my garden refreshing compared to the more uniform, neutral landscapes of the other homes. Some of them were even willing to testify on my behalf if it came to that. I realized I wasn't alone in this fight, and that made me more determined than ever to stand up for what I believed in. The HOA's threats became more frequent. They sent me formal letters demanding that I remove the offending plants within a certain time frame or face more severe fines. The tone of their communication became more aggressive, as if they were trying to break me down and force me into compliance. But every time I received one of those letters, I became more resolute. In the meantime, the media had caught wind of the story. A local reporter, having heard about the HOA's overreach, reached out to me for an interview. The story quickly spread to local news outlets, and it didn't take long for the community to rally behind me. The idea that the HOA was trying to destroy someone's garden because it was too colorful seemed absurd to many people. What started as a private issue quickly became a public spectacle, and more people came forward to share their own experiences with the HOA. Local artists and community leaders began offering their support. Some offered to speak on my behalf, explaining how art was an important form of self-expression, even in the context of home landscaping. My lawyer was now preparing for a possible court battle, and I had the public on my side. The HOA had misjudged the situation. What they thought would be an easy win turned into a fight for individual rights and creative freedom. After several months of back-and-forth correspondence, the HOA called a board hearing to discuss the matter. This was it, the moment I had been preparing for. Armed with my lawyer, letters of support from my neighbors, and an entire community behind me, I was ready to make my case. When I walked into the meeting room, I was prepared. The HOA board members looked uncomfortable as I presented my arguments. I spoke passionately about my garden being more than just a collection of plants. It was a living work of art, something that expressed my love for beauty and nature. I explained that the colors were not a violation, but an enhancement of the natural landscape, designed to bring joy to everyone who saw it. I also presented the legal documents my lawyer had compiled, showing how the HOA's actions could potentially violate property rights laws. It was clear that they had never considered the implications of their actions. My neighbors and local artists who had rallied behind me also spoke, adding their voices to the argument. For the first time, the HOA board members seemed uncertain. They didn't know how to respond. They had underestimated me, thinking they could force me into submission. But I wasn't just a homeowner. I was an art collector, a lover of creative expression, and someone who believed in standing up for what I believed was right. In the end, the HOA board members voted to retract their demands. They issued a public apology, admitting that they had misunderstood the nature of my garden and that their rules needed to be updated to allow for more personal expression. They also agreed to remove the fines and promised that they would revise their guidelines to be more inclusive of creative landscaping choices. The victory wasn't just mine, it was a win for the entire community, for anyone who had ever felt stifled by rules and regulations that didn't serve the greater good. My garden was safe, and it was a symbol of creative freedom in a world that often tries to put boundaries on expression. Today, my garden remains exactly as it was, vibrant, colorful, and full of life. It's more than just a garden now, it's a statement. It's a reminder that when you stand up for your rights, even against seemingly powerful organizations like the HOA, you can make a difference. The HOA learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate someone's passion, especially when it's rooted in creativity. My garden continues to thrive, and it's become a source of inspiration for many others. It's proof that art exists everywhere, even in our own backyards, and it should never be suppressed.